Okay, you know that feeling, right? You're in the middle of a workout, totally gasping for air, and you just wonder, what is actually going on inside my body that's making me breathe this hard? We've all been there. Well, let's get right into it, because the real answer is probably not what you think.
You'd probably guess it's all about desperately trying to suck in more oxygen. And yeah, oxygen is super important, no doubt. But the real emergency signal, the one that's just screaming at your brain to make you breathe faster and deeper, that's actually triggered by something your body is fighting to get out.
So before we dive into the deep science, let's just start with something really simple, something we can all see and feel. What happens on the outside the moment we start to move?
In fact, this is so basic that you could literally measure the difference yourself right now. The change between just sitting here and getting your body moving is immediate, and it is obvious.
Here's how simple it is. First, when you're just resting, count how many breaths you take in 1 minute. You could even get a tape measure and see how much your chest expands. Then, get up, jog in place, do some jumping jacks, anything for just 3 minutes. As soon as you stop, do those same measurements all over again.
And the result? Well, no surprise here, right? It's the same for everyone. The number of breaths you take per minute just skyrockets. And your chest expansion, that goes up too. So that tells us your breathing hasn't just sped up, it's gotten way, way deeper. You're moving a whole lot more air.
And that brings us right to the heart of it. Why? Why does your body suddenly demand all this extra air? This is where we flip the script on what most of us have been taught. It's less about an oxygen shortage and way more about a carbon dioxide problem.
So yeah, let's ask that question directly. Why the huge change in breathing? The easy answer, the one we all jump to, is to get more oxygen. But that's kind of like saying a fire alarm goes off just to make some noise. It totally misses the real reason for the alarm.
And this right here shows you the critical difference. Look, getting oxygen in is of course essential for your muscles. But the thing that's actually forcing you to breathe harder, the most powerful trigger of all, is the urgent, desperate need to get carbon dioxide out. It turns out your body is way more sensitive to CO2 building up than it is to oxygen running low.
That just feels a little weird, doesn't it? I mean, why is this waste gas, this CO2, such a massive threat? Why does our body treat it like a 5-alarm fire that has to be put out immediately?
Well, here's the crucial part. When carbon dioxide dissolves in your blood and other fluids, it literally forms an acid. So too much CO2 means your body's becoming too acidic, and that is bad news. It can mess with your enzymes, the little workers inside your cells, and it threatens the body's super delicate pH balance, a state we call homeostasis. Your body will do pretty much anything to stop that from happening.
So the body has to get rid of this acidic threat, fast. But how does it even know it's there? Well, it all comes down to this incredibly sophisticated alarm system that's built to sense the danger and trigger the right response.
Yep. Deep inside your brainstem, there is this dedicated control center that is constantly, 24/7, monitoring your blood. You can think of it like the ultimate security system for your body's chemistry, and its #1 job is to watch for rising CO2.
Now, there's a fancy scientific name for this whole process. It's called central respiratory chemoreception. Let's break that down. Chemo for chemical and reception for sensing. It is literally your brain's chemical sensing system for breathing, and CO2 is its main target. So as your muscles are working hard and churning out more CO2, the level in your blood starts to climb. And as that slightly more acidic, CO2-rich blood flows through your brain, it trips the wire on these highly specialized sensor cells. That's what sounds the alarm and tells your lungs to get moving.
So who are these amazing sensor cells? Let's zoom in and actually meet the microscopic hero at the center of this whole story. A tiny, tiny cluster of neurons that has a huge job.
It's called the retrotrapezoid nucleus, or just RTN for short. I know, it's a mouthful, but this little spot in your brain is the absolute master sensor for CO2. It's the command center that detects the problem and launches the solution.
And when I say tiny, I mean really tiny. To give you some perspective, in a rat's brain, the entire RTN is made up of only about 2,000 neurons. That's it. It's an unbelievably small and specialized team of cells in charge of a function that is absolutely essential to keeping us alive.
And this is just incredible. It shows you just how critical the RTN is. A study in the journal Neuron found that if you damage this one tiny spot, it nearly eliminates the body's entire breathing reflex to high CO2. Take out the RTN and the alarm system basically just goes silent.
So how on earth do these few thousand little neurons pull this off? Well, they're packed with these special molecular detectors that are just exquisitely sensitive to acid, or more specifically to protons. Two of the big ones are named TASC2 and GPR4. When the blood gets more acidic from that CO2, these detectors get switched on, causing the RTN neurons to start firing signals like crazy, basically yelling, "Breathe more, right now!"
But, like with almost everything in biology, the story's got another layer to it. It's a little more complex. The RTN is absolutely the star of the show for sensing CO2. But when you're exercising, your body has other strategies working at the same time.
It actually turns out that the body's whole game plan for managing your breathing changes depending on just how hard you're working. That simple CO2 alarm system isn't the only thing in control when you're going for a light jog versus an all-out sprint. And this shows you exactly how that strategy shifts. During moderate exercise, your brain's motor center, this thing called central command, actually tells your lungs to start breathing more before CO2 even builds up. It's like it's anticipating the need. It's so good at it that your CO2 levels barely even change. But when you push into intense exercise, your muscles start producing lactic acid, which is another source of acid. Now the RTN and other sensors kick into total overdrive to fight that double whammy of acidity from both the CO2 and the lactic acid.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the 4 big takeaways. Number 1, that feeling of needing to gasp for air, it's driven more by getting rid of CO2 than getting oxygen. 2, why? Because excess CO2 makes your blood acidic, and that's dangerous for your cells. 3, a tiny little spot in your brain, the RTN, is the master sensor that detects this threat. And finally, number 4, your body is smart. It uses different strategies to control your breathing for a light jog versus a crazy, intense workout.
This whole automatic system for regulating something so vital is just incredibly elegant. It's almost always perfect, keeping us alive without us even having to think about it. But that does leave us with one last, kind of provocative question. What happens when this flawless system